Most students from my department went for a master's or doctorate in counseling after obtaining their BA or BS in sociology. And this got me thinking, maybe careers in therapy, whether it is physical therapy or occupational therapy, may also be feasible to sociology graduates. But they may need to get another master's in another field. But in my humble opinion, a degree in sociology prepares students quite well for careers in counseling and any kind of therapy related careers. So, the person with a bachelor's degree in sociology, if the person pursues a master's or doctorate in counseling or therapy, the person will already have an understanding of how the neighborhood characteristics or the nature of the individual's family upbringing determines whether the person is aware of the benefits of exercising or not. Think about this. The neighborhood of a person determines whether parks are available, sidewalks are available for exercising, and whether people in that neighborhood sometimes they feel safe to go exercise in those places. And sometimes people living in the same neighborhood can serve as support systems to an individual. And if the individual has an opportunity to exercise in the neighborhood, this is going to lead to improving the DNA methylation, which increases responsiveness to insulin within the person's system. And this facilitates muscle oxidation and regulates a person's glucose level. And this in turn reduces the person's risk for cardiovascular diseases, high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, osteoporosis, and so on. So, a person with a degree in sociology will have a basic understanding that the risks for all these diseases are essentially genetic and social. So, a bachelor's degree in sociology will enable the person pursuing higher degree in therapy or counseling to understand how mental health issues is both social and genetic. The neighborhood characteristics of a person growing up, the home environment of the person growing up can interact with the type of genes within the person's system. And because of that, not everybody develop mental health issues or depression, and so on and so forth, even if they grew up in precarious neighborhood, violent neighborhood, or dysfunctional families. The neighborhood environment and the home environment has to interact with the type of 5-HTT genes to determine a person's risk for mental health. And because of that, I think that a degree in sociology prepares the person very well for higher degree or similar degree at the same level in counseling or therapy. And I think that it is important for a person pursuing a degree in counseling or therapy to understand how our family upbringing and our neighborhood environment interacts with the type of the 5 HTT genes in our system to determine our stress hormones, the level of our cortisols, our cell in our hippocampus, and how our metabolism or immune system works. So, I think a person intending to pursue a degree in counseling or therapy should understand the mechanisms behind gene-environment interaction for different mental health and physical health issues. And having a degree in sociology, we learn about disparities in education, income, in other opportunities, and disparities in occupational attainment. And all this determines the type of neighborhood we are going to live in. And this determines our support system. And this, in turn, determines the diet we are going to consume. And this ultimately determines a person's risk for heart disease. So, because of that, I think, once again, I'm going to emphasize it is important for students going into counseling or therapy to have a basic but concrete understanding of how gene-environment interaction works. It may be easier for that person when he or she graduates from the program and work with clients. And I also think that it is important for just anybody who are thinking of a career in counseling, therapy, to have an understanding of how our individual socio-economic characteristics like education, income, occupation, and so on, and our neighborhood environments can also correlate with how and why a person may transition from one disease to another. And sometimes counselors, psychologists, therapists may have to work with victims of hurricanes, tornadoes, flood, or individuals affected by food insecurity or famines, or children and adults affected by war. And it's not a bad idea for a person thinking of a career in counseling, therapy, or school psychologists to understand how scarcity caused by all these natural disasters of famines or war or floods or any kinds of lifestyle changes, even the coronavirus, can lead to a change in our human genome, and this can increase the person's risk for diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. So, I think in order for the person to be a good counselor, to be a good school psychologist, to be a good therapist, the person got to understand how the external environment of the client or changes in all these external environments can lead to the change in the human genome within that person, and this can increase the person's risk for diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. And the person thinking of a career in counseling or therapy also got to understand People have different risks for lung cancer, even though they all can be smoker or somewhat quote-unquote allergic to nicotine. And this depends on the presence or absence of the RS1696998 allele or the presence or absence of chromosome 15q24/25. And because of that, people can all be smokers or they like to smoke, but they have different risks for lung cancer. And having this understanding will make the person a better counselor or therapist, in my humble opinion.